let's see. So a rook lift is when the rook gets maneuvered through the third rank and over to the other side of the board, for example, the king side to attack the king. Sometimes the rook gets maneuvered through the fourth rank to bring the rook over to assist the other pieces in attacking. So let's look at this first example here, where a white's queen is already very close to the black king, but the queen needs help from other pieces. The queen cannot do everything on her own. So how are we going to get the rook to get to the king side? Well, the rook on the d file cannot go up, of course, because of the bishop attacking the d3 square. Also, it cannot go to d4 because of the pawn attacking that square. Trying to get the rook over through the e file, then up, then to the right is taking a very long time. So what we're going to do here is play a4. We're going to maneuver the rook unexpectedly through the a file and over to the king side to help the queen attack the king. Now, black is going to play bishop c8 to attack the h3 square where the rook wants to go to. White plays rook a3. Bishop goes to f5 also to defend the king here. White plays rook g3 check. Bishop blocks. And now white is going to sacrifice their rook for the bishop. Now let's see why white is doing that. They're giving up 5 points for 3 points, but in return, they're getting a strong attack. So they gave up a rook for a bishop that is 3 points and also the pawn. So for 4 points altogether. King goes to h8, queen checks, king goes to g7. And now they're going to do a second rook lift. So since the bishop is gone, this other rook is free to move up to the third rank and over to the king side. Now black plays rook h8, attacking the queen, but white just ignores the threat and plays rook g3 check. King f6, rook f3 check, king a7, and checkmate in one move, queen f7. So this is a beautiful example of how we can maneuver our rook even through the side of the board, through the a file, by moving the pawn forward and giving the rook some space. Then trading our rook for a less valuable piece and doing a rook lift with our second rook. Let's look at another example here, where a white is trying to get their rook once again to the king side to attack the black king. So we see that the bishop is aiming at the king. We see that the queen can get to the king side, and the knight is centralized and can also easily come closer to the king to attack. However, the rook right now looks like it's stuck behind the pawn. The other rook is not developed either and cannot get to the king side easily. So what white is going to do is they're going to move their pawn to create space for the rook to go up through the third rank and maneuver to the king side. So let's see what black does here. Black plays queen c7, rook f3, bishop d7, rook h3, pawn h6, and white now moves the pawn in front of the king. Pawn to g4. Now, why is it safe to do that here? Usually we don't want to move our pawns in front of the king, but in this case, it works. Because first of all, black is too far away from the white king. White has a knight and pawns that are protecting the knight in the center, which makes it hard for black to maneuver through the center to get to the white king. And also white has enough pieces next to the king to protect him. So in this case, it's safe to move the pawn in front of the king. And of course, white wants to open up the black king by moving g4 to g5, trading the pawns, opening up the h file, and then checkmating on the h file. Okay, so let's see what black does. They played bishop c6, g5, of course, to come in contact with that pawn. Pawn captures, and knight e4. And here, well, white plays queen h5, natural move that everybody wants to make when they see this position, right? To get the queen over to the king side, line it up with the rook, double up your pieces on the open file to checkmate the king. And now it seems like the checkmate is inevitable. So black plays rook f to e8, and white wins with queen h8. All right, so we saw another wonderful way how white could maneuver their rook up on the f file and over through the third rank to get to the black king. Okay, now let's look at this third example where white is going to sacrifice pieces and then do the rook lift. So notice that white has these two monster bishops looking straight at the king. They also have two monster rooks standing on open and half open files. They also have a queen right next to the black king. So as we can see, white's pieces are positioned in very good places. And the next step is sacrificing and seeing some tactics. So what white is going to do is they're going to sacrifice their bishop for a pawn just to open up the king, check. All right, king takes back. Now the queen is coming in with check, with tempo. King is going back to g8, and now white is sacrificing their second bishop with bishop takes g7, king takes back, queen checks the king first to get the king over to the side of the board, and now we're going to do a rook lift. So rook f3 works perfectly here. No one is attacking that square. Black plays bishop c7. Since there's no way that they can stop the checkmate, and a rook goes over through the third rank to h3 and checkmates with ladder mate. So these are all beautiful examples of how we can maneuver our rooks by doing a rook lift. If there is no space for the rook to move up, then we have to create the space by moving our pawn forward. And if there are other pieces attacking the squares through which we want to maneuver our rook, then we can consider sacrificing our pieces for those defenders or for those attackers that are attacking those squares. So here's another way that you can bring in a piece into your attack. Try to do this in the middle game. Don't do this in the opening, and see how it works for you. And see you at our next lesson.